The good people at Colleague Racing are the official sponsor of the noon hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Colleague Racing is your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team. And with that, we welcome on our NFL insider, Aditi Kinkhabwala. What's up,
Aditi, did you see this Baker contract here?
I was literally just looking at that.
He basically just signed a Case Keenum contract.
Half of the $15 million he made last year.
This is crazy. Why?
I mean, look, you have to bet on yourself. Some job is better than no job.
By the way, Aditi, have you ever seen a picture where a player looked more punchable than this picture here?
Oh, my God. You know what? But at this point, Adam, I just feel like you've been so open about your bias.
Gee, does he not look punchable in that picture? Yes or no?
Bull, you need counseling.
Damn, bro.
I can't get you with me on this?
Adam, let it go.
Punchable is such a...
Come on, he's got a punchable face.
Hey, man, that man is just trying to get a job, bro.
Bull needs counseling. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
You know, you're all haters. You're all haters.
No,
of me.
one of us is a hater.
You're a hater.
Aditi, just admit that Baker sucks so we can move on.
No, you're the one that's the hater. The guy is gone. He's out of your city. Just let him be.
Yes.
Let it go.
Like, stop obsessing over that man.
From like Frozen or something? Let it go.
Is he still making commercials? Do we know about that?
Sing it, G.
Is Baker still posing with tigers in his underwear?
Gee, how
It was
about
good
that
use of
Browns
his time.
defensive line?
Oh wow, I love this. Tomlinson.
Aditi.
Yeah.
Aditi, I just got a memo from Bull's doctor. It says we have diagnosed Bull with what is commonly known as
OCD.
BDS.
What's that?
Baker Derangement Syndrome.
Man, is that a derivative from Trump?
It is.
System?
It
Okay,
is.
It's like a cousin.
Here's the thing. When you hate somebody, and hate's a strong word, but I know you dislike him massively.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is divorce yourself from any and all thoughts of him because
Why? I have fun
I'll tell you
making
why.
fun of him.
Hate corrodes the vessel that carries it.
No, it makes me
does.
happy. It makes me happy.
No,
to
it
make
doesn't.
fun
It
of Baker.
clearly makes you angry.
Well, I got a question.
No, it makes me happy.
I got a question. We
Go
talk
ahead.
about moving on. I got two names that I'm gonna throw at you, Aditi, and you tell me which one would you like for the Browns to make, because we've been arguing about wide receivers this whole time, and we mention we failed to even mention these two guys. So I'm gonna give it to you as a possibility. Should the Browns trade for Elijah Moore or sign DJ Shark in free agency?
I love Sharkin.
I like Shark.
Yeah, but I feel like Moore's got so much untapped potential still. And I got to meet with him before the game against the Browns. He was in our production meeting, and I got to tell you, I love the kid. Loved him. Loved his moxie. Loved the way he goes after what he wants. And he's got that toughness about him, too. And none of this is a statement on who DJ Shark is, but I kind of really like the idea of Elijah Moore needing a fresh start, wanting to go someplace. And I just think he adds an element that isn't necessarily already present on the Browns roster.
Yeah. Call your people.
I think it's a good call by Tyvus. Actually, we didn't mention Elijah Moore, and I think Elijah Moore would make a lot of sense. I do think it's
Well, what about you, Tyvus? What are you thinking? Which one would you rather have?
Personally, I'd rather have Tyvus Powell. I mean, the guy can do everything. I mean, listen, we need locker room leadership.
But can it be had? I heard he's really expensive.
Listen,
It might be tough to fit in the cap.
Honestly,
446.
Yeah,
go look it up right now. Everybody that's watching, 446. Go Google Tyvus Powell combine time. You'd be absurd at some of the numbers that I draw.
Aditi, I'd rather, if I was a Buccaneers fan, I'd rather have Tyvus as my quarterback than Baker.
What's with you?
I'm with you. I'm picking you as my QB.
No, honestly, I'd rather.
Wait a minute. So am I texting Andrew Berry right now and telling him that Tyvus needs a tryout?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Jay don't want to get me in with the Guardians, so if you can get me in with the Browns, that'd be fine.
I tried. They asked me where he played his college ball.
You tell him that he took unfortunately, he took a athletic football scholarship. But if he would have just stayed dedicated to baseball, Ken Griffey III would have been his name.
They asked me for a scouting report, and I said, I've only seen one at-bat. He grounded out in a softball
No,
game.
you seen me twice at bat.
You know,
You grounded out?
You know what
No,
the
the
best
first one, it was a base hit. McNuggets, pull the records.
We don't have the video. The first one was a single
Pull
center.
him later.
The other one was a ground out.
Aditi, how do you
what
grade the
best
Browns'
part about
moves?
not playing a sport anymore is? is that you get to make up whatever stories you want.
Yeah.
And you don't play anymore.
These are not make-believe. This is all facts.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
How do you grade the Browns' moves so far?
I mean, I love them, right? How long have we been saying that they need to shore up that defensive front? They need to rebuild the interior of that defensive line. That's where they need to be focused. That's what Jim Schwartz needs. And boom, that's exactly what they went out and they did. And reasonably, might I add. It's not like they threw the whole bank away at somebody, which is, what we were talking about a year ago. So I feel like these were smart, targeted moves. I think that they obviously helped the team. And I think that they didn't cost an obscene amount of money.
Aditi, where is Lamar Jackson?
That's weird to say that about people.
What's your prediction on where Lamar Jackson is going to be playing next season?
My gosh. I mean, I sort of feel like he's going to end up being in Baltimore just because how is he even going to negotiate anything with anybody else? This whole agent thing makes me a little bit crazy. I really, truly don't understand how he still can't get an agent. Like why he still refuses. How there is nobody that they are willing to take advice and counsel from. And it's funny because I was on the phone with the mother of 2 NFL players yesterday. She actually was married to an NFL player, has 2 children who play in the NFL, and it just blows her mind that he doesn't have an agent.
Aditi, can you try? Yesterday we were a little confused. McNuggets, if you could put that back up. Lamar Jackson tweeted 133 for 3 years, fully guaranteed, with the not excited face. But I need an agent, and he's laughing with his hand over it. Does that mean that is what the Ravens offered him, and he says that was laughable? What do you take from this particular tweet? Because we tossed it out to our panel, and we couldn't understand whether he was being facetious or that was literally an offer that he threw out there, which would be a bad business decision because usually your employer does not like when you throw your wages out in public information.
And especially that employer. P.S. By the way, Ravens take leaks to a whole other level than any other organization in the National Football League. They keep everything as close as possible. So agreed to point number 2 that you're making, G. And as for the first part of it, I mean, it's kind of how I read it. I wasn't really sure, but it sort of made it seem like he was saying, hey, I was already offered this. Why do I need an agent?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's how I read it,
It's very hard to discern. This whole thing from the very beginning, I mean, it feels as if we've been talking about this for months. And I did say to y'all that I thought that it would indeed be the non-exclusive tag because I thought that Eric DaCosta would say to him, all right, go out there, go see what your market is then. Right. And also because there was be this piece of difficulty that there's not an agent. And this goes all the way back to when he was in college, when people were questioning why he didn't have an agent and half the league was trying to talk to him about a position other than quarterback. It just, the point was made, and I think it was Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk who pulled Josh Allen's numbers over the last 2 years since he signed a new deal versus what Lamar has gotten. That's money that you're just never going to get back in any way of any kind. No matter what deal is done right now, you're not getting those years and that money back. It really stupefies me. I cannot understand how he and his mom and his family don't think that there's value to be gotten by bringing in somebody else here. Yeah. And if it has to do with what the percentage is, well, then negotiate that percentage down.
Yeah. Hey, I get it to some degree. We've all a lot of us have dealt with agents, right? In this business, a lot of them are very sleazy. I've had 2 agents that I had, and then I fired them both because I thought they were both sleaze bags. I didn't like them. And so it's hard to give up your money to someone that you feel is like not earning that money. But this is such big money when it comes to Lamar, and there are advantages of having an agent in that business that there's a reason most players have it. Tyvis, you had an agent, I assume?
Yeah, I still got my agent.
Right.
We have a regular. Y'all got media agents? Y'all got media agents?
Oh, yeah, I had one. I fired him.
I've never had one, and I'm the big exception to that rule.
Yeah, but
Aditi, I know.
Aditi, you got a media agent?
But I also think that there are certain things that you don't necessarily want to hear.
I've always wanted to hear those
I trust my
things.
agent to tell me the truth, and he does tell me the truth. But there are certain things that are said to my agent that I would respond to so emotionally that it's better he hears them as opposed to me hearing them initially.
That's
like
why,
Yeah,
that's
most
why
people.
say
Jay's
lawyer
unusual.
says
I'm
this about it.
unusual.
Aditi, that's exactly why most people in the business, in media,
TV
have
especially.
agents. I will tell you, there was a
me.
time when, during a negotiation period that I was in at ESPN, where the very high up manager that I was negotiating with told me at the time, as far as I know, you're the only talent at ESPN in studio production. Not that includes some of the game broadcasts and everything else, but in studio production that was not represented. And at the end of the negotiation, he could have been blowing smoke, but he said it's the smart play because it gives us more flexibility in negotiation, because oftentimes the agent comes in specifically to negotiate his own salary, which puts you in a ballpark depending on what you're paying your agent. I have friends in the business that pay 3%. Unfortunately, I have too many friends that pay 10%, which is absurd to me. But that buffer there oftentimes becomes the difference between an offer going to you and to someone else. So I made myself more marketable by not having an agent.
I didn't love negotiating myself in radio, but I did it. I had an agent briefly. I fired him. I didn't like him. And I negotiated all my own contracts and, whatever.
I've always had a lawyer look over everything.
But you have a lawyer looking over it.
Well, I think there's pros and cons, right? Like on the one hand, your agent also has to be aware and accountable to and worried about other clients. And so let's say you're negotiating, Jay, with ESPN, and you're also representing 4 other people at ESPN. You can't necessarily say everything you want because you can't, put those other 4 in harm's way.
Right.
On the other hand, an agent maybe knows the market a little bit better than you do, knows what's going to come up, hears certain things before you can possibly hear them, knows where to toss your name or not.
Well,
I don't know.
true.
I don't, I also feel like that you get to a certain point in your career. Well, I don't know how much your agent really does for you. I don't know at this point that my agent is bringing me anything new. I don't know that there's anybody in the world right now that isn't, and I don't mean it like in an obnoxious way, but I don't know that a reel is going to help me at this point. You're either going to hire me or not. You kind of know who I am. But to Lamar Jackson's case, he does need one right now. This is the most important negotiation that he will ever make in his entire life. You hope that there's another contract after this one. But you don't know that there's another contract after this one. So why would you not want every single stone unturned?
Well,
I agree with that.
Because I had a friend who negotiated his own deals towards his last 2 contracts, and when he negotiated his one, all the veterans was like, why would you sign a deal like this? Now, the deal was he made
Are you talking about Sherm?
I'm not going to put a name on it.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about Sherm.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was out there.
Anyway,
That's what happened.
when he negotiated his deal, it was heavy incentives based.
Sure.
It was, if I make Pro Bowl, I get this. If I make All Pro, I get this. If I just play certain amount of games, it was that. But he ended up getting more money because he betted on himself. But so when I talked to my agent about it, he said it's a terrible contract because he says, Tyvus, if he gets hurt, he's going to miss out on all this money. He says, y'all go for the big money. Yeah, his contract is more money, but if basically he's putting himself at risk. He said, when I negotiate a contract, I'm going to get you paid whether you playing or not. So I'm going to protect you.
Right.
And that's kind of the give and take when it comes to it.
That's a mindset. Like I remember a few years ago, let's say 5 years ago, my husband and I had this back and forth where the NFL Network at the time, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, but whatever, the NFL Network at the time was not offering the same amount of money, was in a position where the money wasn't necessarily going to be what you wanted it to be, but there was the potential that a year after that, there would be a lot more money. And my agent didn't want to do a long-term deal that was kind of flat because he was like, you're going to be worth so much more money a year from now. Just do it for the 1 year and let's not let them lock you in for whatever, 4 years, 3 years, something like that. My husband was very much of the mind that the security counts for something, the guarantee, not going through the issue of this a year from now. It's just a completely different mindset. Are you a Richard Sherman? Are you going to bet on yourself and have faith that there is indeed going to be a bigger market for you a year from now? Or do you like the guarantee? Do you like the security? Are you my husband? You know, it's a different mindset. Your agent, Tyvis, it certainly sounds like, wanted to know that no matter what, you were taken care of. And he didn't want you to feel like you needed to perform to earn that money.
And then, Didi, I said the same thing yesterday. I said, well, look, he may be looking for a 5-year guaranteed deal. They may not be comfortable in giving it to him with his health history and the way he plays the game. If they come to him and say, we'll give you 3 years for $150 million guaranteed, that's an average of $50 million a year, and it's a shorter deal, but it is fully guaranteed, and you still can renegotiate at 29.
He ain't going to do it.
I would.
But see,
I would think about that.
This is exactly the point. This is exactly what I was saying. If I'm him, I'm doing that because you know what happens to quarterback salaries? They get old in 5 seconds.
That's right.
So if you lock yourself up for 5 years, by the time you get to year 3, year 4, year 5, you're probably in the bottom half of what quarterbacks are being paid. If you bet on yourself, look, $150 million over 3 years is generational wealth. You and your family and your kids should all be good with that amount of money. So you're going to be worth so much more money in year 4 when you get to renegotiate than if you lock yourself into year 4 right now. Patrick Mahomes' deal, it's old already. It's old. I think, and I've said this before, I know that Adam and I have had this conversation. I really think that this is what Joe Burrow is going to do. I think Joe Burrow is going to do a super high guarantee short-term deal because he's smart enough. He's not going to waste his money. He knows that if his career ends in whatever 3 years, it's still generational wealth. I'll use that term again. But if his career doesn't end in 3 years, well, he's going to be worth so much more
and he's
3 years from now than he is right now.
Yeah, and
maybe he's got 2 Super Bowls by that time. Maybe he's got an MVP at that time.
And Aditi, I think the cautionary tale here is Baker Mayfield because after his best season, we never knew, there were never any hard numbers confirmed, and maybe you can add to this, but supposedly they were feeling each other out to see what neighborhood they were in, and the Browns were willing to give him a very lucrative contract, and Baker and his agent decided, nope, that's not the number we're looking for. We're going to come back. We're going to do it again next year. That didn't happen. Today he signed a contract that guarantees him to make $4.5 million next year.
Well, Lamar's best is a lot better than Baker's best.
I know it is. I'm just using this as a cautionary tale. Last year he made 15. So the conventional wisdom is whatever the Browns were talking on the extension after the playoff season, it was likely between 15 and 20 per.
Right, but
now he's playing for 4.5.
Jay, the bottom line is Lamar Jackson's going to get a lot of money this year anyway.
He is.
And he'd be a free agent next year, and somebody's going to pay him a ton of money next year.
If that's the route he goes. But also the way he plays has to be factored into all of this decision-making. Aditi said quarterbacks' deals get old immediately.
And then there's also that question. I mean, look, wasn't that part of the conversation this past season when, Mike Vick was saying slap on a knee brace and play and this, that, and the other?
Yes.
Well, he doesn't have the security to go out there. So then you're in that same position. If you're playing on a 1-year franchise tag and you're playing for your next contract, then are you kind of playing a little timid? Are you playing? That's what the security does for you. And I think that the Baker question, it's such an interesting question. You can never undervalue yourself. You should always sit here and try to get what you're worth, but you should also look at the big picture. Yeah. And so Adam is mocking Baker a few minutes ago about his commercials. Yes. But the guy was a kid in Cleveland. So maybe he was making $3 million less on the football contract, but he had an offense that worked for him where he was moving the ball, where the team was winning, where he was getting these progressive commercials. And again, when you win, everybody eats. It's like the whole Le'Veon Bell conversation that we had where I was saying, you go to another team, you don't have an offensive line that blocks for you that way. You don't have a number 1 receiver that's drawing all the defenses. You don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback who extends plays and does some crazy things. You might get $2 million more with the Jets, but you will more than make up for that money with the Steelers because of what you are able to earn off the field, because of what you'll be able to do within the parameters of that offense. He chased the extra $2 million, and look at what happened.
Aditi,
But the flip to that, of course, is like you can't tell someone, oh, well, undersell yourself.
It's easy for us to all say that, right, on the outside, not being offered that
Of course, but I just think we're all guilty of not necessarily looking at the whole picture, the big picture. And I think that that's to your point of what you're saying here.
Ultimately, it comes down to what the player is comfortable with. And Aditi makes great points talking about the security blanket of having a long-term deal is very enticing. On the other hand, you don't want to sign a deal that is below your market value. And by the way, there's pressure by the NFLPA and your teammates too when you do that, because you're setting the bar for other people that are coming behind you. So there is kind of that external pressure. But at the end of the day, it's every person has to make their own decision that they're comfortable with. I know I'm guessing.
But Tom Brady, let's not forget, Tom Brady never had a problem doing that. Because Tom Brady wanted teammates that he could win with, and he knew that as long as he kept winning, not only was his legacy secure, but he'd get vitamin water, he'd get he'd all these other side deals to make that money. Exactly.
Absolutely. And so that's the genius.
Lamar Jackson looks at the Ravens, I would sit here and say, this is a team that completely retooled its offense to build around me. That is completely designing what it's doing around me and what I do best.
Right.
And is everybody else going to do
Although Aditi, they didn't give him any talent around him.
No, not this past year, and that's certainly a quibble. There's not only one right answer here, right? Like, it's not, oh, the Ravens are totally right, or, oh, Lamar is totally right. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Obviously, that's why a negotiation is you have to meet some place. I'm just saying, I hope that he is looking at the whole entire picture. I struggle to see that when he doesn't have an agent who brings a different POV, a different experience, and different conversations to the table.
Yeah. Let's move to some other news over the last 24, 48 hours that were interesting. We were talking about the Darren Waller trade briefly for a third-round pick. Obviously, he's really good, but he's injury-prone, and also the Aaron Rodgers stuff, too. Or anything else you want to hit on? Like, what's kind of stood out to you over the first 48 hours?
Do you think that the Aaron Rodgers thing is like just we're all being punked? Like, they all know exactly what's happening?
I hate him. I do hate him.
Everybody.
I hate Aaron Rodgers even more than I hate Baker.
RDS.
Wow, that's
Rodgers derangement.
That's a lot right there. You hate him more than Baker.
Hey, listen. Aaron Rodgers has a better case than Baker, right? Baker just won a job. Like Aaron Rodgers be doing some strange stuff. I ain't gonna be your friend. I would just stick away from you. But Aaron Rodgers is a strange bird. He's a strange dude, bro.
I mean, he's been a strange bird for a long, long, long time. But I just
punked, do you mean that
you gonna go in there?
I think the decision's been made. You know Trey Wingo. Trey Wingo isn't necessarily a newsbreaker, but he's plugged in. And for Trey to tweet what he tweeted, I took that as gospel. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think they're trying to build this drama up through this McAfee appearance. But I think at 1 o'clock, they'll drag it out. And however long his appearance is, in the last 20 seconds, he'll say, oh, by the way, I'm going to the Jets.
That's what LeBron did. I'm going to South Beach.
It's not undecided. He knows where he's going.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a huge ego stroke.
Reading? Adam, what are you reading on your phone right now?
I'm just wanting to find if there's any breaking Browns news. I'm just, staying on top of it.
Well, Aditi, in our chats, Bull, I think he's got something that goes from his phone to his wire, and it gives him an electric shock. Anytime an NFL insider tweets a move, I was yesterday on the treadmill. This is a God-honest true story. I found out about the Waller trade from Bull. 2 minutes later, the NFL Network had it.
Yeah, I had it first. I had that news first.
Yeah.
I just didn't take credit.
Was it Darren? Did Darren call you and tell you? Is that how you knew?
Did y'all see
Darren are close? I call him D.
So, Bull, you clearly have notifications set on your phone.
No, I'm just obsessily looking at Twitter.
Are you looking at it
like an effing lunatic?
Yeah,
set notifications.
I have a brain damage. I'm messed up. I had 3 seizures when I was a kid. I'm effed up.
They said that.
That's why I hate. That's why I hate Baker. That's why I hate Aaron Rodgers. That's why.
I want to release you of that negative energy.
or strongly dislike?
I don't really hate them. I'm exaggerating.
No, I don't think he does either. I'll tell you this.
I don't wish
working with
anything
you for
bad to
8
them
months,
happen.
9 months, however long it's been.
Yeah.
I can actually tell people that, and you may be surprised to hear this.
Yeah.
Bull has a huge heart, but it's surrounded by scar tissue, and it's tough to get to. But when you get to it, you realize that he's actually a compassionate and kind soul who has the ability to really get angry and hate.
Well,
If I like you, you're all in. I got your back to the end.
Take back the Zeke comments.
What?
The one that you,
I didn't say I hate Zeke.
No, you didn't hate him, but you.
I just don't think he's that good.
You had a whole new segment created that
Tony Pollard is better than Zeke.
Yeah.
Which is true.
No, but you making it sound like Zeke's just done.
I don't think he's done. I just don't think he's. I think
Have they cut him yet?
He's not
No,
worth
it's
it.
coming later today.
They not cutting him.
I have.
If he ends up on the Bengals, I'll like him again.
Aditi, I do have a real question.
Hey, he could.
Devin Bush.
You are
He's a
hilarious.
free agent.
Yeah.
Is this? You've got a chance to watch Devin Bush a little bit. We're close to Pittsburgh. I loved him coming out of college. I thought he was going to be a solid linebacker. Is he worth kicking the tires on? What's the Sky report on him, and why did it go bad in Pittsburgh? Injuries? Or?
I mean, I think everybody is worth kicking the tires on, right? You're not doing your due diligence if you're not examining anybody that's out there. Right. He wasn't the same after he had the ACL surgery, and it's hard. It takes a full year to come back off of that. So I think the first year, he wasn't cut much slack. He just wasn't. This is so terrible that this is what it comes down to. But sometimes it's your likability, whether you're willing to cut someone some slack. And it's, are you willing to say, I mean, I hate that it comes down to this again, but like if you're the type of guy that smiles, if you're friendly, if you're not tweeting about killing cats, things like that, look it up. I won't go into it right now.
You got to kill a cat once in a while. Come on.
People might be willing to acknowledge, you know what, it takes a little bit to come off of that, and your lateral movement may still be a year away and whatever. I think that was a little bit hard. I think that he was asked to do some things that maybe didn't necessarily play to his strengths. The Steelers also were not very good in the interior of their defensive line, and the back end wasn't as great as it could have been. And so who gets exposed by that? It's your inside linebacker, obviously. So it was a lot of puzzle pieces. I'm not willing to say that the guy's a bust. I'm not willing to say that he's just not got it. But I also am not willing to say, he just was in a totally wrong position and he's going to go someplace else and be a perennial All-Pro. I don't know that either. And some of it, I think, has to do with his desire as well and his want to.
Hey, Aditi, before we let you go, we spent a lot of time on the wide receiver position, and we kind of talked about, who would you most like to see come in here? Names, obviously, the trade for would be Brandon Cooks and Hunter Renfrow. There are other guys. They could also just pause on that and try to address the wide receiver hole at the draft,
right,
which they haven't had a lot of success in drafting wide receivers. The two third-rounders in Bell and Schwartz, we're still, watching the sand go through the hourglass on those guys. What do you think they're going to do to address that, whether it be draft, free agency, or trade? And do you have a player in mind that you think would be the perfect fit for what they're doing here?
I've advocated that I don't think that you spend super high at that spot right now. And so the benefit to a veteran, the benefit to a trade or a free agency signing is that you've seen demonstrated success on this level. But I also think that one of the most easily translatable positions from college to this level is wide receiver.
Right.
And, Schwartz, I think, was always a flyer. I've said this before to you. You either have the ball skills or not. You either have like some sort of natural catching ability or not. He was always about his speed. Bell, I'm unwilling to give up on. The previous board that you put up had Paris Campbell on it. And I remember having a very long conversation with Reggie Wayne about Paris Campbell last year. I was at Paris Campbell's pro day. I remember watching how he tracked the ball, feeling strongly about the receiver that he would be. And then we kind of just didn't see it early in his career. And Reggie Wayne was saying to me last year, the guy's been dinged up a little bit. He hasn't had full opportunity. And I finally get my hands on him. And I really feel like we're finally getting to where we want to be with this young player. And he's really going to, burst out now. And if Reggie Wayne is saying that, it means something to me. Like sometimes not everybody comes out and has a Jamar Chase rookie year. Not everybody is a George Pickens their rookie year, and it does take a minute. So David Bell, I'm not willing to write off just yet. Schwartz, I think Schwartz is who Schwartz is. I don't expect him to suddenly develop this insane ability to catch the ball. I don't. So that one's fair. I'm not willing to give up on David Bell just yet.
Yeah, it's too early.
I think that this is a price question. And I don't know the exact market right now or what is being asked for some of these guys out who are on the trade market. So I can't tell you, trade for more or go after this one because I don't know what
it all comes down to price.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, Aditi, I talked to Paris, and he is very open to the possibility of playing for the Cleveland Browns. So, Andrew Berry, I've done pretty much 98% of the work in a week worth of on my vacation. I spent my vacation spending 98% doing your work for you. All you got to do is it's a layup. Boom. Just throw it out there. Boom.
You tell Paris that Reggie Wayne was bragging on him to me.
I would definitely send him a message. Go Bucks.
Thanks, Aditi.
Aditi, great to see you. We'll see you next week. Thanks for all your great
Sounds
stuff.
great. Bye, guys. Have fun.